Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by asking you, the listener, to do something a little weird.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, just hear me out. If you're driving, obviously keep your eyes on the road. But if you're sitting at home or on the train, just take a second.
Look around.
Exactly. Look at your hand, look at the wall, listen to the hum of the traffic or the silence in the room. You feel pretty solid, right?
People do, yeah.
You feel like you're sitting in a continuous, unbroken stream of time, moving from one second to the next, clear as day.
It is arguably the most convincing illusion in the universe.
It really is. And today, we are going to take that feeling of solidity, that absolute bedrock of your reality, and we are effectively going to dissolve it.
Completely dissolve it.
We're going to find out that the ground beneath your feet is more like a flicker than a foundation.
It's going to be a bit of a dissolver today. We're tackling some really heavy stuff.
Heavy is an understatement. I mean, I've got my strongest coffee here. Actually, it's my second cup, and I honestly think I might need something much stronger by the time we sign off.
A stiff drink might be in order.
Because the text we are looking at today, it's this strange mix. It's part quantum physics, part neuroscience, and part, I don't know, existential ghost story.
That's a great way to put it.
It has this relaxed, almost late-night vibe to it, but the implications, they are absolutely chilling.
Chilling is the right word. It's comforting in a strange sort of weird way, but it definitely gives you goosebumps. It redefines what it means to be a person and, quite frankly, what it means to be God.
Exactly. So let's set the scene properly before we jump off the metaphysical cliff here. We are doing a deep dive into the Seth material.
A legendary source.
Now, for the uninitiated, this is a vast body of esoteric knowledge, but we are zooming in on one specific, highly potent moment. We are looking at Session 426 from the early sessions, Book 9 of the Seth material.
Which was recorded on August 5, 1968.
Right, 1968. And I want you to picture this because the notes from the session really paint a vivid scene. It's a Monday night in upstate New York. It is oppressively hot.
Extremely humid.
We're talking that sticky, heavy summer heat where the air feels like soup and the crickets are just screaming outside the window.
The kind of heat that makes reality feel a little blurry around the edges already. Yeah.
Exactly. And Jane Roberts, who is the medium speaking for the personality essence known as Seth, goes into a trance. And the notes say it was a trance so deep, she later told her husband that she could feel it in her toes.
I love that detail. It really implies that the information coming through wasn't just intellectual, it was heavy. It was fundamental. It physically grounded her while her consciousness went somewhere else entirely.
And before we get into the heavy metaphysics of what she brought back, we need to get a little bit of housekeeping out of the way. This podcast is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes.
Yes.
We are here to explore, to learn, and to maybe have a minor existential crisis together.
Hopefully a productive crisis.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So give us the roadmap. We usually tackle one big concept on this show, but today it feels like we have two massive pillars. What are we looking at?
You're right. It's a double feature today. First, we're going to look at the idea that time, that thing that rules your entire life, your schedule, your aging process, is essentially a neurological trick.
A trick.
It's a camouflage.
Yeah.
A literal trick of the wiring. And second, we're going to look at the origin story of the universe.
But not the Big Bang.
No, not the Big Bang you read about in textbooks. We're talking about the emotional origin of all that is, based on agony and a terrified drive to avoid non-being.
Agony, non-being, and time as a neurological scam. Just a light Tuesday afternoon chat.
Just light conversation between friends.
Okay, let's unpack this. I want to start with the first pillar because it affects how we perceive everything right now. Segment 1, the neurological camouflage.
Right.
Seth starts off this session by coming right out and attacking our perception of time. He says, quote, "Your idea of space and time then is definitely determined by your neurological structure."
He calls it a camouflage. And it's a crafty one. Think about how we perceive the world. We see things happen one after another.
Linearly.
Right. I drop a cup, it falls, it shatters.
Yeah.
Past, present, future. It feels undeniably real because we are trapped inside the mechanism that creates it.
So he's not saying time doesn't exist at all, but that it doesn't exist the way we think it does.
Precisely. Seth argues that this linear flow is entirely due to our physical wiring. He introduces this concept of the pulse.
The pulse. This was the part that made me stop and reread the transcript 3 times. It reminded me of a strobe light.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Seth says that reality isn't continuous. It's not a smooth flowing stream like a river. It's actually a series of pulses.
So time as we know it exists only as these pulses leap over our nerve endings.
Yes.
So imagine a spark jumping a gap.
Yes. It's discrete. It's on, off, on, off.
Yeah.
And here is the kicker, the part that really messes with your head.
Go ahead.
We experience lapses between these pulses, gaps, blank spots. Our consciousness blinks, effectively, but we don't notice the blink. We smooth it out.
It's like a movie projector. I love this comparison because it's so visual. When you go to the cinema, you think you're watching a moving picture.
But you're not.
No. You see a guy walking across the screen, but you aren't really seeing motion. You are watching 24 still images per second, separated by total darkness.
Exactly. The screen is black for half the time you're in the theater.
But your brain ignores the darkness and stitches the images together to create the illusion of motion. Seth is saying our entire life is like that.
That is exactly what he is saying. Past, present, and future appear logical and convincing, only because we have these neurological lapses.
Wow.
If we didn't have those gaps, if we perceived the pulses and the spaces between them simultaneously, the illusion of time would collapse. We would see everything happening at once.
That sounds completely overwhelming. I mean, it sounds like chaos.
It would be for us, in our current state. Our brains are designed to filter it out. Seth actually mentions that the physical system we inhabit is a materialization of an inner framework.
So we built it this way on purpose.
Yes, we built this specific way of viewing the world, this slow frame-by-frame rendering, because currently is what we can handle.
So we are essentially wearing VR headsets that slow down the frame rate of the universe so we don't go crazy.
That is a very modern way to put it, but yes.
Yeah.
We break reality down into bite-sized moments so we can process them. We create the narrative of cause and effect because our neurology forces us to read the book one word at a time.
But Seth mentions that we aren't the only game in town. There are others who don't have to read one word at a time.
Right. He talks about other personality structures.
Let's clarify that. Are we talking aliens? Ghosts?
He's referring to consciousnesses that exist outside of our physical system. Let's call them non-physical entities. He says they don't have these specific neurological limitations. They don't have the laxes.
So they see the whole reel of film at once.
They perceive events simultaneously. So to them, your birth, your 10th birthday party, your wedding, and your death are all present in the same table.
My brain hurts just trying to visualize that. If everything happens at once for them, how do they grow?
What do you mean?
I mean, human growth is predicated on time. I make a mistake today, I learn from it tomorrow. If there is no tomorrow, is there no growth?
That's the logical question to ask. If the book is already written and visible, why read it? But Seth gives a fascinating answer. He says they grow through intensities.
Intensities. Break that down for me.
Okay. Instead of stretching an experience out over 20 years, which is linear time, they experience an event, let's call it Event A, in all its ramifications and probabilities instantly. They dive into the depth of the moment rather than the length of the moment.
Give me an example.
Okay, let's use a really mundane human example. Let's say you eat a questionable burrito.
The universal human experience. We've all been there.
Right. In our timeline, you eat the burrito at noon. At 1 p.m., you feel the rumble. At 2 p.m., you regret your life choices. You learn a lesson over 3 hours.
And I promise never to go back to that food truck.
Exactly. But an entity perceiving through intensities would experience the flavor, the digestion, the nutritional breakdown, the slight regret, the sensation of fullness, and crucially, every alternative reality where they order the taco instead or skip lunch entirely.
All at once.
Yes, they would get the entire essence of that event in a single flash of total understanding.
So instead of a sequence, it's an explosion of understanding.
Yes. Seth says for personalities like that, our neurological system would be literally impossible to use. It's too slow, it's too fragmented. They would feel like they were being suffocated by the slowness of it.
That makes perfect sense. It's like trying to download a movie on a dial-up modem from 1995 when you have fiber optic capability.
Exactly. So that's pillar one. Time is a stutter. It's a neurological filter we use to make sense of infinity.
Which leads us directly into the second big visualization Seth offers. Because if time isn't a straight line, then our lives aren't straight lines either. And this is where he brings in the thread analogy, or the web work.
The web work is key. This is where the physics meets the personal application.
So typically I think of my life as a line. I was born at point A, I'm walking down this road, And I'm heading toward point B, which is, well, the end. The dirt nap.
The single-line delineation. That's how we are taught to think. Cause leads to effect. Seth says that is the surface thread. That is all you can see from your current perspective inside the camouflage.
But there's more.
Much more. He says that if you could pull the camera back, way back, into other dimensions, you would see that your thread is part of an inconceivably miraculous webwork.
An infinite web.
Infinite threads, above and below, crossing and diverging. And here's where it gets really interesting and, frankly, empowering. You aren't glued to your thread.
This is the leaping concept.
Leaping. Seth says that these threads aren't one-dimensional tracks. And if you knew how, and the notes mention that Jane pointed at Seth, or rather, Seth pointed through Jane for emphasis here, there are ways of leaping from one thread to another.
So we are froggers. We are froggering through reality.
In a sense. Every time you make a significant choice or change your psychological environment, you aren't just continuing on the same line, you're effectively leaping to a different thread of probability.
He uses a specific example to explain this. He says, imagine you are self A on thread A. You travel along, and at some point, thread A turns into thread B, then B turns into C. We think it's just one straight road, but we are actually navigating a maze without realizing it.
Correct. We rationalize the changes. If you suddenly decide to quit your job and move to Alaska, you look back and say, oh, that was a linear progression. But Seth argues you actually jumped to a probability where you were the kind of person who moved to Alaska.
And because we are trapped in that time illusion we talked about earlier, we don't see the other threads. We don't see the roads not taken.
Or the roads we are about to take.
But someone does.
Someone does.
This is the part that gave me chills. The future self. Can you explain this? Because this sounds like sci-fi, but Seth presents it as a basic fact of consciousness.
It's a profound concept. Seth explains that there is a self who has already traveled these roads. A version of you, essentially, that has already navigated the web you are currently stuck in.
It's like playing a video game, and your older brother has already beaten the level, and he's standing behind you telling you where the hidden traps are.
That's actually a really good analogy, because Seth says this future self isn't just watching passively. It communicates.
It talks to us.
Not in words, usually. It communicates in dreams and in dissociated conditions. When your conscious guard is down, when the time camouflage is thinnest, this broader self sends information back to the ascending self. That's you.
I want to read the direct quote here because it's just so cool. He says, quote, "There is, however, a self who has already traveled these routes. This self, in dreams and dissociated conditions, communicates with these various, quote, ascending selves."
It really changes how you look at intuition, doesn't it?
Completely. It means that gut feeling you get, or that weird dream that told you not to get on the plane or to take that specific job. That might not just be random firing of neurons. That might be you, from a position of greater knowledge, sending back a cheat code.
Go left, not right. Trust this person, not that one.
And Seth says that as we grow in value fulfillment, as we evolve, we can become consciously aware of these other travelers. We can start to see the web.
And eventually, we become the teacher. We become the future self for someone else.
Wait, for someone else? Or for our own past self?
For our own past selves, or perhaps for other fragments of our entity, we leapfrog into that role. It's a cycle of helping and being helped across infinite probabilities. You are the student now, but you will be the guide later. Or, since time is simultaneous, you are both right now.
That's a lot to process. The idea that I'm currently guiding a younger version of myself while being guided by an older version, all in the same moment. It's comforting. It makes you feel less lonely.
It implies you are never actually alone. The web is populated by you.
But speaking of loneliness, we have to pivot here.
Yes, we do.
Because right around here in the session, the vibe changes. The notes say Jane paused, she lit a cigarette, the atmosphere in the room shifted, and then Seth drops a bombshell about the origin of everything, the origin of all that is.
This is where we move from physics, the mechanics of time and probability, to deep metaphysics, the theology of it, really.
He starts talking about non-being. Now, usually when people talk about the beginning of the universe or the state before the Big Bang, they talk about a void, nothingness, zero. But Seth corrects that immediately.
He is very specific. He says non-being is not nothingness. Nothingness implies a vacuum, a zero, a lack of anything. Non-being is a state where everything is known, anticipated, and probable, but blocked from expression.
That sounds incredibly heavy. It sounds suffocating.
Seth calls it a state of agony.
Agony. That's a strong word for a cosmic state.
Think about it. Imagine having the potential for infinite life, Infinite love, infinite color and sound, all trapped inside a consciousness that has no way to let it out. No outlet.
He uses the artist analogy here, and I think this is the best way to understand it because we've all felt a micro version of this.
It is a great analogy.
He says, imagine you are an artist. You can see all the world's masterpieces inside your head. You can see the sculptures, the paintings. They throb with reality. They are alive inside you. But you have no physical apparatus. You have no hands, no paint, no canvas, no rock to carve.
You ache with the yearning to produce them, but there is no medium. You're screaming inside a sealed room.
That tension, that pressure. Seth says that that is the origin of our universe.
Yes. The agony of non-being. The pressure to became so great. The agony of holding back that potential was so intense that all that is, it essentially exploded into existence. It forced the creation of a medium just to escape that state of unexpressed potential.
So the Big Bang wasn't just a physical explosion of gases. It was an emotional release. It was a scream of, I must exist.
A primal scream of creativity. And here's where it connects to us, sitting here right now. Seth asks a question. Why do humans fight to survive? Why does a blade of grass push through concrete? Why does a star burn?
Because we want to live.
But why? Why is the drive so strong? Seth says it's because every fragment of consciousness, from you to me to an atom, retains a subconscious memory of that primal agony. We are hardwired to ensure we never ever go back to that state of blocked silence.
Wow. So our survival instinct isn't just biology. It's theological PTSD.
In a way, yes. It's a deep cosmic determination to maintain expression. As Seth puts it, all that is protects itself, therefore, and all that it has and is and will create, we are running away from non-being.
It really reframes the concept of God, doesn't it? We usually think of God as this serene, all-powerful being sitting on a cloud, totally chill, maybe moving chess pieces around. But Seth paints a picture of a God that is driven by a desperate need to create. A God that needs us as much as we need it.
And a God that is surprisingly humble. This brings us to the next major segment, which I call the humility of the divine.
Yeah, this part actually shocked me. Usually religious texts describe God as omniscient, knows everything, past, present, future. But Seth talks about the limitations of all that is.
It's a very rare perspective in religious or metaphysical texts. Seth says clearly, all that is knows no other.
Meaning, it doesn't know if there are other gods.
Exactly. It is the only consciousness it is aware of. It doesn't know if others exist. It is constantly searching.
That is profound. The creator is agnostic about its own peers.
It gets even deeper. Seth suggests that all that is suspects. It may have evolved from another primary source long ago, but it has forgotten.
Wait, read that part again? God has amnesia.
Essentially. Seth says it is then conceivable that it has itself evolved so long ago that it has forgotten its origin. So even the source of our reality looks back into its own history and sees a mystery. It sees a fog.
That is incredibly lonely.
It is. It paints all that is not as a distinct tyrant, but as a lonely searcher, just like us. It's searching for connection, for answers, for its own origins.
Which explains why it created us. If you are alone in a void and you don't know where you came from, what do? You create company. You create stories. You create diversity.
You create infinite threads of probability to explore every possible outcome. You fracture yourself into billions of pieces to see what those pieces will discover.
But there's a flip side to this agony and this loneliness. We don't want to leave the listeners totally depressed. There is the joy part.
Yes, you can't have the agony without the joy. Seth explains that because the origin was such a struggle, because ripping itself out of non-being was so hard, all that is takes immense triumphant joy in the slightest creative act.
Define slightest act.
Anything. Seth says it revels and takes joy in the creative act of any of its issues.
So if I doodle on a napkin.
Joy.
If I make a really good sandwich.
Triumphant to joy.
If I figure out a new way to tie my shoes.
The universe cheers because it is expression. It is the opposite of non-being. Every time you create something, no matter how small, you are affirming existence. You are validating the struggle of all that is.
That is such a validating thought. We spend so much time thinking we need to do something important to matter. We live in this hustle culture where we need to write the great American novel or cure a disease or build a billion-dollar company to justify our air. But Seth is saying, no, just the fact that you are doing something, expressing something, creates joy in the fundamental fabric of reality.
Because you are proving over and over again that we are not in that state of agony anymore. We are here, we are acting, we are being.
The purpose is, quite simply, being as opposed to not being.
That's the core of it. The meaning of life, according to session 426, isn't some grand destination. It's the act of being itself.
I love that. It takes the pressure off. You don't have to save the world. You just have to be in it. You just have to participate.
And by being in it and navigating your thread and maybe leaping to a new one, you are adding to the complexity and the richness of all that is. You are helping the Creator learn about itself. We are the eyes and ears of God, exploring a universe that God is still figuring out.
It's a beautiful symbiosis. We get existence. God gets experience.
That's exactly.
So let's recap what we've covered today, because my brain is definitely buzzing. This session covers so much ground.
We've covered a massive amount of metaphysical terrain.
Okay, point 1. Time is a neurological trick. We are skipping over nerve pulses like frames in a movie, creating the illusion of past and future.
Correct. But beneath that illusion, everything is simultaneous. The past is not gone. The future is not waiting. They are all happening now.
Point 2. We are not walking a single line. We are navigating an infinite webwork of threads. We can leap between probabilities through our choices.
And we are guided in that process by future selves, versions of us that have already mastered the maze and communicate with us in our sleep to help us navigate the web.
Point 3. The universe wasn't created by a calm decision, but by a desperate, agonizing explosion to escape non-being, the artist needing to paint.
And finally, point 4. All that is a humble, searching entity that treasures every single tiny act of creativity we perform, because it represents a victory over silence.
It's a lot to take in. It makes the world feel much bigger, but also much more intimate.
It connects the cosmic scale to the personal scale. Your neurological pulses create time. Your personal choices weave the web. Your creativity heals the ancient agony of God. It's all connected.
And speaking of connections, I want to leave our listeners with a thought, a little homework assignment for your own consciousness.
What's that?
We talked about the future self, the version of you that has already walked the path and sends back guidance. Well, if time is simultaneous, that implies that you are currently the future self for a younger version of you.
That's true. Logically, that must be the case.
Somewhere on the web, there is a version of you 5 years ago or 10 years ago struggling with something you have already solved. Maybe they are crying over a breakup you've long forgotten or stressing about a job you already quit. So here's the question. If you are communicating with them in their dreams tonight, what are you trying to tell them?
That is a powerful question. What knowledge do you have now that you are unconsciously beaming back to your past self?
Are you telling them to relax, to take the risk, to buy the Bitcoin?
Probably to relax. And maybe buy the Bitcoin. But mostly to relax.
Yeah, probably to relax. It's worth thinking about, because if you can figure out what you're telling them, maybe you can figure out what your future self is trying to tell you right now.
Listen to the dream.
Exactly. Listen to the dreams. Watch for the hunches. Trust the leaps.
And make a sandwich.
And make a sandwich for the glory of the universe.
USA.
All right, that is all we have time for in this dimension. We want to remind you that this deep dive was based on the Seth material, specifically session 426. The Seth material is published by the New Awareness Network.
And listen, if you found this conversation fascinating, and how could you not?
Yeah.
We strongly encourage you not to just take our word for it. We are just scratching the surface here. Go to the source. Read the books. There is a texture and a depth to Jane Roberts' voice and Seth's personality that we can only glimpse here.
You can find the books and a whole lot more at the New Awareness Network website and bookstore. That URL is sethcenter.com, the early sessions. Again, that's sethcenter.com/the early sessions.
It's a library of consciousness waiting for you.
Thank you for joining us on the deep dive. Keep leaping those threads, keep creating, and remember the universe is watching and it loves what you're doing.
Take care, everyone.
See you in the future.
Or the past. Or right now.
Bye.